Hello, and welcome to the 14th Annual Carver College of Medicine Scholarship Luncheon. My name is Bridget Hoffman, and I'm the Executive Director of Development for Major Gifts at the University of Iowa Foundation. It's a pleasure to be with you today on our Medical Center campus, celebrating our outstanding students and the impact of philanthropy. I would like to start today's event by thanking our generous scholarship donors. Your support truly makes a difference. Thank you so much. I would also like to recognize my colleagues at the UI Foundation and friends at the UI Carver College of Medicine Alumni Relations and Student Affairs offices for their work in helping make today possible. Thank you so much. I would also like to recognize some very important guests joining us today. University of Iowa President Sally Mason, University of Iowa Foundation President and CEO Lynette Marshall, University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine Vice President for Medical Affairs Dr. Jean Robillard, Dr. Robillard, is your wife Renee here as well?
Yes, she is.
Okay, I wanted to make sure we introduced Renee as well. Thank you. And then finally, the new dean, University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine new dean, Dr. Deborah Schwinn. And finally, University of Iowa Foundation Vice President for Health Sciences Development, Jackie Lewis. Today we will hear from two outstanding scholarship recipients that have named endowed scholarships. While each of them has his or her own story to tell, one theme is universal. The generosity of our benefactors make it possible for these hard-working students to be able to fully devote their talents to advancing medicine, beginning right here at one of America's premier academic medical schools. It's now my pleasure to introduce the leader of our medical campus, Vice President for Medical Affairs, Dr. Jean Robillard.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you. We are here today really to celebrate the Scholarship Weekend. And as you know, we are also gathering to recognize the generosity of so many of you for creating scholarship and fellowship for the Carver College of Medicine. And your support is really essential to the ongoing success of the college, and also it enhances clearly the quality and diversity of the entire medical student body. And I think this is very important when you look at why it's so important to support this scholarship. But further, we're also celebrating medical students, their hard work and their commitment to what they are doing and what they are representing. And we are also here today to thank all of you and to thank all these students for what they do. Your support of medical student scholarship offer more, and clearly more than just financial assistance to our students. They are a vote of confidence to them and the people who have chosen to become tomorrow physician and tomorrow scientists. It is also personal, I see that as an investment in the future. These students are the people who will make the discovery, who will find new cure for disease, and will take care of us in the future. Then I think it's important. And for these reasons, scholarship were also chosen as one of our top priorities for our fundraising campaign, Iowa First. This is the Carver College of Medicine campaign, a $5 million fundraising effort that is in its final year. Again, I want to thank you for joining us today as we celebrate your generous gifts and that help our medical students receive really the best education possible. And on behalf of everyone here in the College of Medicine, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to all of you for your tremendous generosity and support. And now it is really my honor and pleasure to introduce someone who really doesn't need any introduction. University, the University of Iowa 20th President, Dr. Sally Mason.
Well, thank you, Jean, and I want to echo his words of thanks to all of you in the audience today, to the very generous donors for all that you do on behalf of our students, and then to the students as well, because yes, you will be taking care of me in the future. I do think about that. It's an honor for me to join you today at this scholarship luncheon. It's something I've come to enjoy every year. Our highest value at the University of Iowa is excellence in the pursuit of knowledge. So first and foremost today, we're celebrating the academic achievements of our talented students, and you are indeed all to be commended for all that you are and continue to accomplish. Now, we're also celebrating a partnership today. I think we all know that higher education is truly not accomplished by lone individuals. It is always a team effort, and it is a big team that, in fact, makes it happen here in the Carver College of Medicine. So we want to thank our awardees' families and friends once again for the support and the encouragement that they've given their loved ones. And I also want to emphasize how important it is to all of us in administration and on the faculty and on the staff. Providing an accessible, high-quality education is our highest priority here at the University of Iowa, and is certainly mine as president. In today's economic climate, the financial challenges that many individuals and families face in pursuing higher education, and the higher education that they not just want, but they absolutely need in today's environment, has never been greater. Medical students in particular are struggling with educational debt. I'm not sure I have to tell any of them what they're facing. According to the Association of American Medical Colleges, the national average debt of a medical student as of October of this year is over $166,000. That's a daunting number for many of us in this room. For students at public universities, it's $156,000, and at private universities, it's higher. It's $183,000. Nearly 9 out of 10 medical students carry a pretty heavy debt load. Interest accumulates for medical students during residency, and especially if one defers repayment until after residency. Those interest amounts skyrocket. So, something to think about, something for all of us to consider. This is a major reason why private scholarships are critical to the success of our medical students and to the success of our university as a whole. And that's why we're here today. It's exactly why we're here today. Excellence goes hand in hand with accessibility. We provide the highest quality education when we have excellent students. They are just as important as excellent faculty and staff. Excellent students, in fact, set the bar that inspires all of our students. They also challenge our faculty and staff themselves to think in new ways by bringing fresh perspectives and very hungry minds to our university. This is another reason that our scholarship programs, both need-based and merit, play critical roles in our institutional goals and quality. Because scholarships are so important to who and what we are as a university, we celebrate today the partnership with visionary and generous donors, many of you in the room today. Without your support, the university could not meet its goals, and we couldn't fulfill our mission. So those of you here today who are benefiting directly from that vision and generosity know very deeply and very personally the importance of our donors' support in fulfilling your dreams and goals. In addition to the donors themselves, we wouldn't be able to provide excellent scholarship programs without the superb work of our foundation. UI Foundation President Lynette Marshall, who's here with us today, the development professionals for the Carver College of Medicine, many of them here in the room with us today, and the entire foundation staff are also to be commended as central to the partnership that has brought us here. And then for the students who are here with us today, I know you appreciate what your scholarship means. I think that probably goes without saying. It asks you to embrace your educational experience, to excel in your studies, and make all of those supporting you proud. That's the donors, your family, friends, faculty, staff, fellow students, and yes, even me. I take great pride in all that you accomplish every day. And finally, your scholarship asks you to be the best medical professional possible in service to society once you leave our halls of learning. So I offer you my best wishes for continued achievement and success, and I thank our generous donors who have helped make all of this possible. I'm now going to ask John Robillard to come back up so he can introduce our brand new, 1-week-old Dean of the Carver College of Medicine.
Well, it's really an honor and a pleasure to introduce Deb Schwinn, the new Dean of the Carver College of Medicine. She came from the University of Washington in Seattle, where she was the chair of the Department of Anesthesia and Pain Medicine since 2007. She's an accomplished physician. She's an accomplished scientist. She is a member of the, she has been elected on the National Academy of Science Institute of Medicine. She brings an extraordinary amount of energy and vision to our enterprise. And more importantly to all of us, also our healthcare experience will ensure that we have a successful strategy in regard to research, to education, and to clinical care. But more importantly for me, she is a visionary, she is creative, she is an entrepreneurial person, she is committed to the highest level of excellence, and she is also a catalyst, a transformer that makes people believe they are making a difference. Deb Schwinn.
Thank you, Jean. It's always hard to live up to your introductions. Well, welcome today. I really appreciate your coming to this scholarship luncheon today. And I want to tell you that I'm thrilled to be here. Been here just a week, but I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Ohio. Has almost a number of vowels that Iowa does. And so I'm happy to be back. My journey's taken me all around the country in various training, and as John said, I just came back from Seattle, so I'm delighted to be here in Iowa. And I also want to thank you, before I go on to thank our donors and the trust that our students have been given in these scholarships, I want to also say thank you to Paul Rothman, our previous dean, because you have to always build on solid foundations. So I just want to really say thank you to Paul. So can we just give him a round of applause? So I will be speaking tonight, or I mean right after lunch at 1:30, a little bit more about our curriculum. It's a very innovative curriculum that we have here, and it's really an embodiment of the ability of our students to be able to be prepared for the new world. Remember that our students are coming out from all of their training, both undergraduate medical training, where they take 4 years to learn, and then a minimum of 3 years of a residency, and some of them up to 10 years. So 10 years from now is when they're going to be entering full practice. And that's what we need to be preparing them for. Not how we're doing medicine today, but how we're going to be doing medicine in 10 to 20, and even they may be practicing 50 years from now. So it's very important that we do that. And as Dr. Mason pointed out, the average debt that our students exit medical school now with, at least at the University of Iowa, is $155,000. And then you have interest. So it's incredibly important what you have chosen in this room to do in terms of putting money into scholarships that we can endow and then give to our students. It decreases some of their debt burden. It frees them to be able to choose the profession that and the aspect of medicine where they have a complete passion, not just where they can earn enough money to pay back their debt. So that's critically important, because as we re-engineer healthcare, and John is going to be instrumental in that here at Iowa, we really need to have people that are fully engaged, because the world's not going to look like the way it looks now. Now, for those of you who don't know everything about our curriculum, I want to just give you brief highlights, not the detail I'll go into in a little bit. I just want to let you know that we have a truly innovative curriculum, and coming from the outside, I can see that. You had some of the first communities that's been followed, and in fact, University of Washington, I think, followed Iowa, perhaps, in this. They're amazing. They're physical as well as mental and interdisciplinary. The students get together and they're divided into 4 different areas, and they learn together in learning communities. And I've seen some of the senior students now trying to recapture and keep that community in their last 2 years. They have a very solid community in the first 2 years, but then when they disperse to different places to train, they're really trying to re-engage and bring everybody back. So that's really critically important. The other innovation that I'm walking into that already exists as a strength here is the fact that many of the classes have problem-based learning. For those of you who went to business school, that's kind of like case-based teaching, only it's in the context of medicine. So that has been a cornerstone for the last 10 or 15 years, and it's a very strong foundation of our school. In addition, I had the privilege yesterday of awarding some awards to the education folks that won, and I came to know that for 10 years now, there's been performance-based assessment program going on. And that really grew up from the 1960s with a single physician in a single department wanting to really have medical students know how to interview patients, take note of the details. Some schools now have to go back and teach you art history, where you can look at pictures and paintings so that you can observe details. But I think we've had that here at the Carver College of Medicine for a while. And so those kinds of details come up with our reaccreditation recently by the national bodies for our College of Medicine, which we went through with sailing colors, flying colors. And then the other part is one of the national exams, the part 2 of that exam, really tests interviewing skills. In the last 2 years, we've had a 100% pass rate on that. But you can't stand on your laurels. We have to continue to innovate. And I'm excited that we will be doing that. There are many different things that medicine's bringing. Not only are we going to need to figure out new health systems, the teams themselves have to change. And physicians need to provide leadership in various different kinds of teams, but respectful leadership where every member of the team is valued. We have to be able to use technology. We need to be able to teach with technology as well in better ways, because lectures aren't the best way to absorb material, even though most of us learned that way in college and in medical school. So it's with that in mind that I look forward to telling you a little bit more about our innovative ideas going forward. And I want to come full circle to scholarships. We can't do any of this without your help. And we just want to sincerely say thank you today for what you've brought our students. And I also want to congratulate your students who we've given and invested a great deal of trust so that you can honor these scholarships and do the most outstanding job you can, whatever your passion is going forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, President Mason, Vice President Robillard, and Dean Schwen. We greatly appreciate your commitment to our medical students, and we thank you for making student aid a priority in the Iowa First campaign. It is safe to say that the most important work we do at the University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine is preparing the next generation of physicians, researchers, and teachers. Let's hear from one of those young leaders right now. Natalie Ramirez is a 4th-year medical student and recipient of the Roletta Jolie Fritz MD Scholarship Fund and the Medical Education Assistance Program. Natalie is originally from Riverside, California, and raised in San Antonio, Texas. Natalie is serving as president and secretary of the Student National Medical Association, clinic coordinator, and on the board for the free mental health clinic. And after graduation, she plans to go into psychiatry. Natalie?
Thank you very much for that introduction, and thank you, Bridget, and all those involved in organizing this event for allowing me to speak here today. I actually distinctly remember the very first one of these lunches that I came to. I felt pretty darn special to be amongst this crowd, and I had the chance to meet my very first donors, Dr. Richard Kaplan and Ellen Kaplan. They're actually right there. They met me when I was a very bright-eyed and eager student, and they welcomed me in typical Midwestern fashion, with open arms, a big smile, and an offer for some dinner. Never let it be said that a Midwesterner let you go hungry. I was so appreciative of their kindness, and not just because I probably would have eaten some ramen that night, but just in general, their genuineness and their generosity are the kind of characteristics that I have come to love about the people of Iowa. Not to mention, Dr. Kaplan is actually a pretty rockin' musician. And I play sax, so I figured if this whole doctor thing didn't work out, then at least I'm halfway to a quartet. Fortunately, it hasn't come to that. And the truth is, I've actually been remarkably well supported by the administration here and by my classmates. The Carver College of Medicine is a place that clearly values its students. It is a long tradition of choosing the kind of people who you know got into this to give back, and it is committed to seeing them get through. I cannot tell this college enough how grateful I am for this opportunity to become a physician. It has definitely not always been easy, and looking ahead to residency, that doesn't look too easy either. But it's so worth it. It's a little corny to say, but becoming a doctor has been a bit of a calling for many of us. I feel so blessed to get to do this job where day in and day out, I get to talk to people and listen to them and help them and have them trust me with something as precious as their health. It is a privilege that is not lost on me, and I know it is not lost on my colleagues either. Even you first and second year students, I know about this time of the year you're probably thinking, what did I get myself into? But don't worry, it gets better. Not easier, but better. Over these past several years, I have come to admire my friends, my colleagues, many of whom are here today. These students have led and revolutionized free clinics, they have volunteered abroad, and they have conducted some pretty impressive research. And some of them have probably done all three, mostly the ones trying to match into derm. All kidding aside, I think that they know just as I do, they could not have possibly done it alone. Medical school is ridiculously expensive, and we have needed your generous support to fulfill our lifelong dreams and goals. And I promise you that your donations are helping to make the kind of doctors who you want to be taking care of your family. The people who I will be graduating with and who are still moving through the ranks have been trained to become smart and compassionate physicians. They are going to be great leaders and healers, and they will have been able to do it because of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie. It's never easy to follow our students. Now it's a pleasure for me to introduce our next speakers, Dr. Andy Nugent and his sister Ann Nugent. Their mother, Joan Nugent, a graduate of the UI College of Nursing, established the Dennis H. Nugent MD Medical Student Scholarship Fund. This fund supports either a student from Greene County or the state of Iowa. Dr. Nugent is professor and recently has been named head of the Department of Emergency Medicine in the UI Carver College of Medicine, and his sister Ann is a nurse practitioner. Andy and Ann.
So I gave my sister the microphone, so if you can't hear me, just yell at me. So it's,
Or I will.
yes. Natalie, great job, by the way. It's not too late to go into emergency medicine. So I want to thank President Mason, Vice President Robillard, and Deb Schwan, our new dean. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and talk a little bit about the scholarship that we have for my dad that we established for him. And I got to figure out how to advance the slides because I'm actually an academic and I can't do anything without a PowerPoint. So we have a PowerPoint and it's only about 6 hours long and then we can eat lunch. So we'll get right to it.
If you need a break, let us know.
Yeah, that's right. So as Bridget said, I'm the chair of Department of Emergency Medicine here, and my sister is a nurse practitioner up in Cedar Rapids. And if you're following along, you can tell that our family is fairly medical. So my dad graduated from the University of Iowa College of Medicine in 1961. My mom graduated in 1995 from the College of Nursing, and if you're wondering about the age disparity there, she actually went back to school after 30 years of practice and got her advanced degree, which was pretty remarkable. We love that. So. Just to embarrass you one more time, Mom, she was named one of the 100 great nurses last summer. So. So the medical blood actually doesn't end there. My sister, younger sister Meg, is a nurse. My niece, Ellen, is going to go into physician assistant school, so she'll be the 3rd generation. And just to top that off, Ann married Mark over there, who's an emergency physician in Cedar Rapids, and my wife Diana is a nurse as well. So we've got...
You can run, but you can't hide.
We have 2 brothers, Matt and Mike, who are an architect and a teacher. We don't know what happened to them, but we still love them. So,
Thanksgiving dinner's hard on them.
That's right. The other tie we have here is the University of Iowa. Like I said, my dad was a graduate here. I'm a graduate and went to school here, didn't graduate. But my younger sister graduated, my brother graduated. So along with all that medical blood, we have Hawkeye blood. And some of our earliest memories are driving 7 hours from northwest Iowa in a car to see an Iowa game in the early 70s, which admittedly was probably not just for the game to come down there back then. That was before Hayden Fry. And try imagine going in a car with 5 kids all the way 7 hours from northwest Iowa to Iowa City.
No seat belts or DVD players either.
Yeah, I can't imagine how they did it. But for us, the memories as kids were, going to the old Capitol and McBride Hall and the Student Union and getting to walk around campus. And we had some great memories. And part of the scholarship, and when Dad died to bring the scholarship to life, is we wanted to preserve those memories and what Iowa meant to us and what the medical profession meant to us. And to top it all off, we got to include Greene County as well, which is our family's ancestral home. And we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about Dad and where he came from and why the scholarship means so much to us. And some of that includes Greene County and why we centered the scholarship there. And we promise you we'll get to lunch, and it won't last 6 hours, so we'll move along. So actually where we're from, and I'll start this off, because we didn't practice any part of this, by the way, so we're just going to kind of go from here, is Greene County, Iowa. And we live on a century farm. And if everybody knows what a century farm is it's in the same family for 100 years. And our family has owned this farm for since 1872,
That's
so 150
right.
years.
It says right there.
Is it right there?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you continue from here. Casey is my grandma's family name. So.
Yes. And so to continue on, Sheridan currently has a population of 386, and this is where my dad was born and raised. And, just depending on who had a baby or who's died, it increases or decreases. Mom keeps pretty good track of that, as she also manages our local cemetery. And our record population for this area was in 1920, when we had 763 people during the census.
So now when they say you can blank and miss a town, you can't do that in Sheridan because Highway 4 has a hairpin turn, and you'll go off the road.
Blink.
So don't blink.
So, go ahead, Andy.
By all means. So, yeah.
Dad was the youngest of 3 boys. He was born in 1934, and he's the cute one in the middle. And he was actually the only one to attend college.
And he really did go to a one-room schoolhouse.
He did.
This was in Cedar
There's
Creek.
proof.
And that was the entirety of the Cedar Creek School District, right there in front of you. One teacher, about 10, 12 kids, and all of them were still neighbors when Dad retired and went back to Sheridan after school, after practicing.
And here are some pictures of him from high school, his medical school, and his residency. And it was tough for him to gain his education. He was from a very poor family and had to work at various jobs to see his way through. I think he shot a bit of pool along the way and made some money at that.
I heard about that story.
Yeah, and when he left home to attend the university, he had packed one suitcase and hitchhiked from Sheridan to the university to start his education.
So when we talk about putting a scholarship together and money for students, we really know where it's coming from, because we heard, he had nothing except that suitcase when he went to college. And college back then was about $200 a semester, which was really a hardship. It took him 6 years to get through an undergraduate school. And we really feel, for lack of a better term, feel the pain of our medical students right now, because the debt that they have when they get out of here is just crushing.
So this is Flint, Michigan. My mom actually was from Michigan, and Dad did his residency there at Hurley Hospital in general surgery. And when he finished, he was a chief resident, and he was given the opportunity to continue on in cardiovascular surgery and a fellowship, and decided against it because he really wanted to return to Iowa and to rural medicine.
Fortunately for us, he met someone there. That was my mom. So they got married, gosh, 50 years ago now. It's 50 years ago this year, actually.
Yep.
So it
Don't
was,
even say that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 50. My mom was actually an ICU nurse, and they met over a bedside when they were arguing about IV placements, which at that time, imagine that, arguing over that, but they had to do cut downs at that time for a variety of their IVs, and so that's been a fun story we've shared throughout the years.
I met my wife similarly, by the way. It was arguing over an art line. It was,
Really? I haven't heard that story, Diane.
So after graduation from residency, he was going to come back to Iowa, but we actually ended up in Quantico. Well, I didn't, Ann did.
Yeah.
Because my dad was drafted into the Navy. He was a lieutenant commander during the Vietnam War, and spent a few years in Quantico, and that's where Ann, Matt, and Mike were born.
So then we moved on to Sheldon, Iowa, and that's in the far northwest corner. And Dad was actually the only surgeon for 4 hospitals, so every day he would go between Sheldon, Sibley, Primgar, and Hartley. And he also covered for other doctors in Esterville, Spirit Lake, Spencer, Orange City, Sioux Center, and the Mars.
So yeah, it's basically the entirety of northwest Iowa. And in case you're wondering, that is the town where Tom and Terry Brands came from.
Yep.
And I was in their class, and I wish I had a story where I beat them in 5th grade, but it didn't happen. And our family grew. So that's Ann, Matt, Mike, myself, and my sister Meg is the one kind of scowling there.
She still looks like that. She's not here. We can get away with it.
I've been looking at this picture for 2 weeks trying to figure out why we're all staring to the right. My dad was going straight forward.
Must have been up all night.
So we spent a lot of time in Sheldon up to about 1987. It's no accident that this dog actually ends up in the middle of the picture, by the way, because it became probably the most important member of our family.
And he was a grand champion at the 4-H fair, by the way.
So part of our social life, you can see the dog actually ends up on the bar. This was a St. Patrick's Day in Sheldon, and this is probably the only day my dad ever took off.
The only day.
And that was the day he liked to celebrate. And so with the dog and our neighbors, we had a St. Patrick's Day party every year, and we kind of remember that part.
And Mom made great corned beef.
These are some more of my dad's friends, and a lot of those are University of Iowa graduates and donors right now, so in case they're here, I just wanted to make sure they were up here. So.
So here's a picture of the operating room with my dad there on the left. And I just have a little bit to read from my mom, who gave us a summary of her thoughts on his practice. So one time he went to Spencer, Iowa to operate on a felon. The guy had been shot by the police. A week later, he had to go back because the man had a gallbladder attack, and the doctor he had covered for refused to do the surgery because he wouldn't get paid. Dad ended up doing 2 surgeries on the man and didn't get paid for either. When he retired, he said he could have papered his office with unpaid bills. He always enjoyed his rural practice. He said he could get to another hospital faster than anyone living in a big city. Usually his travel time was 20 minutes. The only thing he said he had to watch for was tractors. One of the last surgeries he performed was a C-section in Hartley. This was shortly before his last open heart surgery. There was a blizzard, and a pregnant mother in Hartley had a baby in trouble with cord prolapse. The call came at 1:30 a.m. It took 2 snowplows and a police car to get him there. They arrived at 5 a.m. Some poor nurse had been holding the head off the cord all that time, and the baby survived. He was happy to mentor students from the high school. Anyone who thought they wanted a medical career was welcome, whether they were going to be doctors or nurses. He often told of the student who passed out the first time he saw a surgeon. He later became a pediatrician. He did not see patients at his office. He always saw them at the general practitioner's office or the hospital. That way, the GPs weren't concerned that he would steal their patients. Imagine that.
So one other little story about this, about the surgical tools that are right there. So my dad didn't have any of that stuff when he was in Sheldon, Iowa. He went to a hardware store and bought all the stainless steel stuff he could and put them in the autoclave when he got back to the hospital and saved money that way. So it was just kind of the guy he was. Still have some of those, by the way. Yes, we did go to the 1982 Rose Bowl, at least Ann did. It's 28-0, unfortunately.
It was really cold.
It's, but we were diehard Hawkeye fans. We still are diehard Hawkeye fans. My dad was a diehard fan his entire life, and even through the worst years of pre-Hayden Fry, we came down every year to watch a game.
So Dad retired in 1986. He actually had his second bypass surgery earlier in 85, Mom, I think? 86. Oh, sorry, 87. Well, sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, it was tough on him to retire. Medicine was his true joy, and ended too soon for him, actually. And after that, Mom and Dad decided at that point that they would move back to that Century Farm, and so they did.
Yep, and I've been there ever since. And became a grandpa. And this is actually Ann's first child, Katie, who's now an opera singer.
Yes, she is.
But my dad was always the kind of guy to put family first, and that included the grandkids, and that really became his whole life after retirement. Was having the grandkids and having the kids back on the farm. It was really a fun time to go back there. And that was the second most important dog right there. So, you know, his name was PeeWee. And there's PeeWee right there. Incidentally enough, they both died in the same year because I think they were that close of friends toward the end. So.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that my dad did a lot of in his last years was travel. And as people with big families know, the families tend to spread out. We were in El Paso and Tyler, Texas, and Minnesota, and all over the place. So Mom and Dad did a lot of traveling, went all over the country, got to see us. And I think they really enjoyed that time as well. The picture down below is my grandparents from Michigan. Way back in the 80s, went to Hawaii, and I got a chance to see Pearl Harbor, which was good for my grandfather.
So, in conclusion, when Dad retired, he and Mom made the decision, as I said, to move back to Churdan. There were no physicians or mid-level providers within 20 miles, and often this required our folks to schedule full days in Lake City, Des Moines, or Iowa City for their care. Dad continued to give free medical advice to his friends and often diagnosed potentially life-threatening conditions such as melanoma and heart disease over cups of coffee or scotch at the local tavern. Unfortunately, since my dad's death, the folks in Churdan have lost their medical confidant and continue to travel, sometimes hours, for their care. They are not unlike many communities in Iowa without local health care options. After Dad died in 2003, Mom decided to investigate a scholarship through the University of Iowa Foundation. She thought this would be a great way to continue his legacy and to hopefully encourage other medical students to return to their roots as our dad did. Each year we come to the scholarship luncheon and meet some really talented, intelligent medical students and are proud, really proud, to provide scholarship dollars in our dad's name. You see, you represent his legacy with every patient you touch. He was a kind and gentle man who loved medicine, his family, friends, dogs, chocolates, and the Hawkeyes, not to mention chocolate and scotch. And you play an important role in keeping the contributions of his life alive. And we thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Andy and Ann. I, too, am a lifelong Hawkeye, native Iowa Cityan. Our next speaker is Thomas Speak. He's a second-year medical student from Hampton, Iowa, and the recipient of the Iowa Medical Society Scholar Program Fund and the C.J. and Ruth Schreck Medical Student Scholarship. Thomas received his BA in chemistry and minor in human physiology from the University of Iowa, graduating with highest distinction. He entered the Carver College of Medicine in fall of 2011 as a Dean Scholar. Please join me in welcoming Thomas.
Hi, my name's Thomas Speak. I've been an Iowa boy my whole life. Grew up in Hampton, Iowa. Came here for undergrad and still here for medical school. So I was asked to talk today about my experiences with scholarship. So there's a lot of ways you can think about scholarship. I know some people here literally would not be able to attend medical school without it. As for me personally, I viewed my scholarship as an opportunity. So this past summer, I knew I wanted to do some kind of unique experience. I found a group that does medical service trips to villages in the Himalayan mountains in northern India. I really wanted to do this trip, but unfortunately was not able to get any kind of funding for it. It was going to end up costing me between $5,000 and $6,000. I could have just stayed here and done research or something and made $3,000 or $4,000. Research was great and everything, but it just wasn't what I was looking for. So deciding between paying up to $6,000 or earning up to $4,000 is essentially a $10,000 decision for me. You stack that onto the $50,000 estimated cost of attendance for an in-state resident, and that's something that would have been hard for me to justify. But I decided that's what I wanted my scholarship money to go towards, so I found my opportunity. So I ended up going to India last summer with a group of doctors and medical students from the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and New Zealand. We went to the mountains and went village to village, setting up free medical clinics. I, as a student, got to actually see the patient first. I would do the history and the physical, and then I would present the patient to one of the doctors, who would then go through everything with me, help me come up with a plan, and was constantly teaching me along the way. So it was a very education-based trip where I got to learn and practice my medical skills. The most memorable patient I saw on this trip was a 3-month-old little girl. Her mom brought her in for what was supposed to be a regular checkup. Her mom had no complaints about the child's health. But it became clear quite quickly that there was something seriously wrong with this baby. Her eyes were infected and completely glued shut. Her fingers were completely blue, and she just gave off the appearance of a weak and a sick baby. We measured her pulse oxygen. It was 49%. The doctors were amazed the baby was still able to feed as well as it was and exert as much effort as it was. So just to give you guys an idea of what 49% is, according to my reliable source of Wikipedia, a pulse ox of less than 65% is associated with decreased mental status, and less than 55% is associated with loss of consciousness. So this baby was not doing well. We also found a significant heart murmur, and it was determined this baby had a heart defect that she would die from without surgery. So one of the cool things about this organization that I was with is that our group not only went around providing immediate help for people, but we also acted as screening for people who need surgery. So later, they brought a group of surgeons over from the United States who would go around and perform all these surgeries absolutely for free. So this baby is going to be able to get heart surgery soon for free, including all the transportation, which is a really big issue up there, and all the care afterwards. So how cool is it that we traveled halfway across the world and likely saved the life of a random 3-month-old baby girl in a random village in the Himalayan mountains in northern India? That little girl will always stand out in my mind as one of the most amazing things I've ever been a part of. And I really believe that trip was one of those life-changing experiences that somewhat shape what kind of person you become. I learned an incredible amount. I got to practice my medical skills with a group of talented students and physicians from all across the world. And I got to experience a new country, their culture, and their people. And it never would have happened without you donors. And I will be forever grateful for that. So that's how I made my scholarship an opportunity. And I truly believe it will make me a better future physician. My hope is that all of you will be able to find your opportunity. And when you do, I think it will make you appreciate your scholarship even more and make you realize just how much gratitude we all owe these wonderful donors. And lastly, I hope that in the future we can all remember the impact that our scholarships have had on us, and we can someday give back to provide opportunities to future students. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Let's give our students another round of applause. Yesterday when he gave that, I was a little teary, so I'm okay today. There are just a few housekeeping notes I'd like to share before we adjourn for the luncheon. During lunch, please share with your table some of your first UI healthcare experiences. We're going to call these Iowa Firsts. We would like you to vote among yourselves to select the person with the most interesting first healthcare experience, and whoever wins will go home with a beautiful centerpiece at your table. And for those of the folks at my table, I've been working on this for about 2 months, so I might have you beat. Again, this year we'll be taking photos with our scholarship benefactors and student recipients. Those will be taken right here in the Premsa High Auditorium starting at 1:00 p.m. And we have allotted a certain amount of time for each picture, and on your name tag you should have, there's a red dot that will denote if you are to have scholarship pictures taken. Our staff will be coming around to assist with organizing the photo groups, and if you have any questions, please see Cindy Ballard. She's wearing a yellow jacket like myself, or Amanda Stecker, who was out here handing out the programs to you. And as Dean Schwinn said after the luncheon, we hope that you will join us to hear more from her. She'll be talking about her vision for interdisciplinary medical education, and you'll have the opportunity to meet some of our students who are engaged in innovative learning models on campus across Iowa and around the globe. This program will be located in 2117, the Ermilla Sahai Auditorium, which is just upstairs on the 2nd floor. If you've not signed up for this program and you'd like to join us, please see any staff member. We'd love to have you join us. And then lastly, just a quick reminder about our reception this evening. It's at Art Building West, and it will be a more intimate setting in which you'll hear from Dean Schwinn. And then after her remarks, we will tour the building, which has been restored since the flood of 2008. Again, if you're interested in attending and have not yet signed up, please see any staff member to let them know you'll be joining us. For those of you staying at the Marriott, there'll be a shuttle departing your lobby at 5:45 p.m. That will take you directly to Art Building West, and then we'll pick you up after the reception concludes at about 8 p.m. Now I'd like to have Dean Schwinn come back up real quick for a special football ticket giveaway. Yes. It's for one lucky student, which is our way of saying thank you for joining us today. So if you'll go ahead and select our student and deliver the name. Hopefully it's a win tomorrow.
Andy Mortensen.
Woo!
Who happens to be going into anesthesiology, if I have that correct.
We did not have that rigged. Again, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy your meal and conversation. Thank you.